There isn't a single Ashton Kutcher episode in 2.5 Men's top 10 on IMDb, proving that the series would have been better off if it just ended after Charlie Sheen left. When Sheen's substance abuse issues and tensions with series co-creator Chuck Lorre worsened during the 8th season, Sheen was fired and went to rehab. But since 2.5 Men was one of the highest-rated shows on the air, Warner Brothers wasn't ready to let it go. So, they brought in Kutcher to replace Sheen as the lead and dragged it out for another 4 seasons. The series had already seen a decline in quality before Kutcher came along. The underlying sweetness of the early seasons had been completely eradicated and the raunchiness had fully taken over. But it was still a funny show. That decline became a lot steeper after Kutcher came in. The post-Sheen downfall is made clear by the 10 top-rated episodes of 2.5 Men on IMDb. There isn't a single episode from the Kutcher years on that list, proving it was a much stronger show under Sheen. When Sheen left, the series should have just ended. 2.5 Men should have ended once Charlie left the story. There's no show without Charlie. The entire premise of 2.5 Men had been built around Sheen's public persona. Charlie Harper's characterization as a rich, promiscuous, carefree bachelor was based on how the tabloids had portrayed Sheen himself. When his brother and nephew came to live with him, it forced him to grow, and he eventually became a loving family man. Sheen was the whole reason there was a show to begin with. There was no point trying to continue it without him, and the overwhelmingly negative response to the post-Charlie episodes on IMDb proves it. And it's not just a Charlie issue. Since the show was already in its 8th season when Sheen left, there wasn't much story mileage left in any of the other characters, either. Jake was all grown up, Evelyn had come around to warming up to her family, and every single possible laugh had been wrung out of Alan's frugality and refusal to move out. Even if Charlie had stuck around, 2.5 Men didn't have much further left to go. The only reason it was still going at all was because Charlie was still a great character. 2.5 Men accumulated way too many problems to continue. There was way too much behind-the-scenes drama. Charlie watching TV on 2.5 Men. By the time Charlie left 2.5 Men, the show had accumulated way too many problems to continue. Sheen's rift with Lorre began to affect the series itself. The vindictive way the show killed off Charlie made it seem like the writers were putting their own personal grievances ahead of the needs of the story. They lost a lot of the audience's goodwill when they killed off a character they had 8 years of investment in. Charlie was a beloved character. Giving him such a disrespectful send-off started the second chapter of the series on the wrong foot. If the writers had come up with a more respectful way to write Charlie out of the show, longtime fans might have been more willing to give the Kutcher era a chance. But by opening season 9 at Charlie's funeral, which reveals he was gruesomely killed by a train and quickly devolves into a mean-spirited roast, they burned that bridge immediately. 2.5 Men continued to have decent ratings for the next 4 seasons, but it absolutely destroyed the show's legacy. 2.5 Men was a completely different show by the end. Eventually, Alan was the only main character left. By the time 2.5 Men eventually ended in its 12th season, it was a totally different show. It started off as the story of an immature bachelor who reconnects with his estranged brother and becomes a caring uncle to his estranged nephew. When Kutcher's Walden Schmidt took over, it became the story of a goofy, geeky tech billionaire with no flaws to overcome and no conflicts to fight. This made the Walden years much more boring than the Charlie years, and it wasn't just Charlie's departure that made 2.5 Men a totally different series in its last 4 seasons. Jake's role was drastically reduced as he got older, and he eventually left, too, when Angus T. Jones objected to the show's immoral humor. Eventually, Alan was the only main character left and he'd been completely flanderized. Other characters were brought in to recapture the early season magic. Charlie's long-lost daughter Jenny brought back some of his edge, and Walden's adopted son Louis brought back the original premise of dysfunctional co-parenting, but it was never the same.